Hi guys, and welcome to Faith Works Designs. I'm Faith, and today we are definitely doing something a little different. I had a friend that was working at a store and she sells CBD oil products, and she was moving to a new location and she asked me if I could possibly make some bags and products for her store. But the catch was she wanted it in hemp. Now, I have never worked with hemp. There is a ton of research online about how hemp is grown, how much better for the environment it is than regular cotton. There's a tons of information out there, but there is no information about how to sew with it, which is really frustrating when you've got to make bags and different things with it and you have no idea how the fabric is going to behave. So today we're making a video about my experience with sewing with hemp, along with giving you directions on how I made this cute little bag because it's adorable. Now, hemp, you'll find the fabric is a weave. It's a plant, so it's a weave. And when they make the fabric, it does fray. So just keep that in mind. Normally I batch sew, so I cut a lot of stuff out at one time. This, you cannot do that. I had to do one bag at a time, one thing at a time, because as you're shifting things around and you're sewing, it's kind of fraying and coming apart. So I kept that in mind with the design and things that I was doing. Like this flap does not have a magnetic closure or a clasp or anything like that, because if I were to poke a hole through this, it would end up fraying where that hole is, and then eventually it wouldn't be any good. So in the design, there is no clasp or anything to kind of keep it closed, but you've got two little zipper pockets here on the side. That one is a lot deeper, basically the length of the purse, and then the other one's a little bit smaller for, say, like a cell phone or something. So you can keep your secured items in here, so all of your other stuff can kind of go in the middle, and it's pretty simple in the inside. There is a little bit of hardware on here. If you saw the zippers, I found hardware called gunmetal, and it just looks really, really nice. So I got the fabric from Bulk Hemp Warehouse. Now, the guy was really nice. I actually put my information on the website because I really didn't know much about hemp, and so I kept some things in my cart, and until I could find some more information, I just kind of let them sit there. Well, creating an account, this guy named Troy called me on the phone and he said, "Do you have any questions? Is there anything that I can help you with?" So I was actually able to talk to someone at the company and ask them about the materials, which was really nice because you don't get that a lot. You just kind of buy things online and hope for the best. So it was really nice that he gave me a call because I was able to ask a lot of questions and figure out what I was going to need to do. It comes, I believe, in either 56 or 60 inches wide, which is great. So you get a lot out of a yard. It is limited in colors. Now, I will say they don't have any prints or stripes or anything like that as far as like the woven cotton, and that's what I got. It's just basic colors, but you can kind of jazz it up with your zippers that you use and things like that. We're just kind of keeping it simple today. Now, a couple of things that I learned about it is it will be coming folded. You're going to have to press it. I tried to regular iron it and it did not work. So you're going to have to press your fabric when you get it. When you cut it, it's thick. So make sure that you've got a good pair of scissors ready to go. Or if you're using a rotary cutter, it'll cut right through there. You just have to put a little extra pressure on it. And it's actually not that hard to work with. Also, when you're sewing with the hemp, you also want to make sure, because it's a weave. So when it's woven, like it's basically woven like this, when you take scissors and you cut straight through that weave, it separates. And so you're going to have that fraying happen. You can either use fray check. What I suggest is sewing it twice. I went around everything that I did twice. It was annoying, but I'd rather it not come apart. So I sewed around it twice, or you could do French seams. I'm going to flash the measurements on the screen now if you'd like to pause it, and that way you can cut out all of your pieces. There's a few pieces for the inside. The outside you're probably going to only need 1/4 of a yard. The inside you're going to need more like 1/2 yard for the lining, just because you're using it for all of those pockets. Alright, so let's get started. So we're going to grab our 6.5 by 9 piece. We're going to decide which side is going to be our front or our right side. and we're going to put the right side of the zipper, that's the one with the little zipper dangly thing there, to the right side of the fabric, and we're going to clip that all down. Then we're going to grab our very first lining piece. That is going to be the 9 by 12. Now we're going to make a sandwich. So we've got our hemp fabric, we've got our zipper, the right side of the zipper is facing the hemp, and then we're going to grab our lining fabric. That's going to go on the wrong side of the zipper. And then we're going to sew this, and we're not just going to sew it once, but we're going to sew it twice, because the hemp, it frays a lot, and I just find that I have better results when I sew everything twice. Alright, so I've stitched along twice. Now what I'm going to do is flip this open so that the lining is out of my way. And I found that hemp is really pliable. If you just kind of push down on it, it'll kind of get out of the way. And you want to do the same thing with your lining fabric, is just kind of push it out of the way. And then what we're going to do is top stitch it. Now I found with hemp so far that I need to lengthen my stitches. So I put my stitches to a 4 to top stitch it down. So hopefully you can see that. The lining piece that's behind here, we just kind of folded it up. Just like that. Now you could just go straight down, but I'm trying to alleviate a lot of the bulk in a lot of the seams because this stuff can get thick. So what I've done is I made that big long piece to just fold it up, and then we're going to stitch along here. Now again, every step I'm going to be doing twice. I put my stitch length back to 2.5 when I went across here the second time. I always forget to change my thread length. It's so annoying. But anyway, I remembered the second time through and went ahead and sewed twice. Now you're going to grab your piece that is 3 by 9, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put this along here. And that's what we're going to be sewing. Making sure that you put it back to 2.5, we're going to sew along here twice. Now that we've sewn that on, we're going to flip it up like this. And then with your fingers, just kind of press it so that it's open. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to top stitch. You want to do about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit bigger. Basically what you're trying to do is catch this seam right here when you flip it over so it'll stay flat. Changing my stitch length again to 4. We have those nice top stitches. Alright, now the next thing that you're going to do is grab your other zipper. So again, we're going to make sure that our zippers are facing the right way. So they're opening up this way. I want to make sure this one is opening up this way so it's facing the left. Then I'm going to take it with the right sides together with the right side of the purse, and I'm going to clip that down, and then you're going to grab your other lining piece, your other pocket piece, and you're going to put that on the back side of the zipper, and we're going to sew along there twice as well. So now that you've sewn this, what we're going to do, you can see both sides. That's the back side, that's your first pocket that you've got. What we're going to do is take the lining, whoops, not the front, just the lining, and we're going to take it and flip it back. And then finger press, finger press, finger press. And same thing with the lining, just kind of push it down with your fingers so that it's out of the way of the back and out of the way of the front, and we're going to top stitch this. Just like you did with this zipper, we're going to do the same thing to this zipper. So take your lining from the bottom and meet it up with the back. So when you look at the back of your purse, that's your very first pocket, and this is going to be your second pocket. So we're going to sew just our lining at the top all the way across twice. So you should see your lining is on the back side. There's nothing on the front right now. Okay, so another piece that I failed to mention is a 2.5 by 9 This is going to be the very top piece that when you flip it over, it'll be the very top of the purse. You're going to lay that on top of your top zipper, the one closest to the top of the purse, and then you're going to sew down twice. Alright, now that you've got that flap done, you're going to turn it and then finger press it down and then top stitch it. Make sure that you change your stitches back to 4. Now that the front is completely done, what you can do is go down the sides on each side and stay stitch or base stitch the edges of your pockets. So you have 2 pockets there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab my side pieces. Those are the ones that are 2.5 by 11 3/4, and I'm just going to put them right here and go ahead and sew down the sides. I've gone ahead and I've sewn down both sides, so I've locked in my zippers and all that good stuff. So now I'm going to turn it with the bottom side up, and then I'm going to grab your flat piece. That is the 9 by 23.5. And the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to center this so that the seams that I can see over here are lined up, and you're going to clip all the way across there. That this back piece of fabric and this fabric that I'm putting together, they do line up on both sides. Now what you're going to do is you're going to sew, get this flap out of your way, and you're going to start sewing right here. You're going to leave about 1/4 inch on this side so that when we go to put the flap up, we turn it and you'll have that 1/4 inch to sew to the side. So we're just going to sew. I'll show you when I get my thread up there. It'll be easier to see. So you see how I've left, hopefully you can see it. I know it's hard. I've left that about 1/4 inch unsewn, and I need to do another stitch all the way across, but I did that on both sides, and you'll see why in just a minute. Alright, so now what you're going to do is you're going to take side flap and the bottom of your flap, your main flap, and we're going to fold that up just like that. So if you're looking at it, you've got your flaps like this. We're going to line those top seams up like that. Now we're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to start from here on the edge and then sew down to 1/4 inch. We're going to leave 1/4 inch on that side panel so that we can turn it up again. So again, you can kind of see that I left 1/4 inch open here so that we can turn it again. So we're going to take the fabric and then flip it so that we make it flat. Now there's going to be a little bit of a curve because that's what we wanted, was like a round bottom. So we're just going to curve it like that, clip it down, and then again you're going to sew until you have 1/4 inch at the bottom of your flat right here. Alright, now you're going to do the same exact process on this other side. So you're going to get the bottom of your flap, your side flap, and then put those together, and then just do exactly what you did on the other side. Alright, so we have got the outside part all done. You've got your flap up here, the inside, all of your little zipper compartments, everything is all done. Now we're going to do the exact same thing that we did to the outside without the zippers to put the sides and everything together. So we're going to do the exact same thing process that we did with the outside as we do with the inside lining. So we're going to grab a lining piece that is 11 3/4 by 9, and then our side pieces we're going to do just like we did the outside. We're going to sew those sides together twice, and then we're going to add the flap. Alright, so your lining is all done. Okay, now we're going to grab our outside purse, and with the lining inside out, we're going to slip it over top of the purse. Both the lining and the top flap should be up here, and make sure that it's on the right side, because that would be kind of goofy. So make sure that the part that has your zipper, the front outside, and your inside lining piece are the same. Like, you don't have this flap on like that side. Just make sure that the flap should line up on the back and the flap should line up on the front. So around this, we're going to leave a hole opening in the flap part so that we can turn all of this inside out. Otherwise, we'd be in a mess. So make sure on the flap that you leave an opening. Okay, so I've got to stop YouTubing like when I'm tired. Okay, you're going to need to grab a piece of 6 inches by 4 inches. You're going to fold it in half and then fold it in on itself. And we're going to sew all the way around it because we need our strap connectors. I apologize for the AC, but it is hot and my face is super red. So we're going to have to work around the sound today. So I've got my 1-inch connector. I've got my little strap. We're going to put those two together like so. And do that with both of them. I like to do it to make sure that this little piece, that little opening right there, is covered up in my strap. Now we're going to insert these this side of our bag, which thankfully we have not sewn yet. You're going to put one on each side. And go ahead and clip those on both sides and then continue with your sewing. Okay, so the bag is all done. Both sides are sewn together, everything's together. Now, on a normal bag, you would clip the sides so that when you turn it inside out, it would lay a little flatter. But with this material, you don't want to cut it any more than you have to, so I've decided to leave that alone. Same issue here, you would normally cut at the corner here, but we're not going to do that, and it actually turns out fine. Just when you turn it inside out and you're top stitching, you're going to have to just kind of flatten everything out with your hands. Yes, it would look better, but we just don't want to take a chance with the fabric. So now we're going to turn everything inside out. What you want to do is with your fingers kind of get the fabric to the top so that the lining and the outside fabric is nice and flat. And we're going to top stitch all the way around just like we did on the inside to sew them together. I do use a 4 on my top stitching just like I did on the zippers as well, so they all match and look like they're the same. But just clip it good all the way around. Alright, so now we're onto the strap, and what I did was I took a 4-inch piece of fabric, folded it in on itself, and then folded it again. Now I went ahead and ironed this so that it would stay nice and tight, and that way I can, and you also need to close up the bottom, so kind of fold it in on itself so that you won't have raw edges. So I'm going to sew on both sides all the way around. So I have got my strap adjuster ready to go. What I did was I just looped it around the middle and then sewed it together. Now what I'm going to do is take the other end and loop it through this way on the purse. Then I'm going to go back through the slide connector, pull it back through. Now there are all kinds of instructions on YouTube and Google and all that stuff for how to do a crossbody strap. That's essentially what you're doing. And then we're going to take the very end and put it through the other one. And then you're going to sew it. And then you're all done. Alright, so what did you guys think? For the first video and the first time working with it, I've learned a lot. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. After figuring out that it was going to fray, trying new things, I think starting out with something that's pretty basic and simple, well, for the most part, it's basic and simple. I think it turned out really well, and I'm excited to work more with it. For my first project and first time working with it, I would probably start with something simple. That way you kind of get a feel with how to work with it and what it's like to sew with. Just make sure that you're paying attention to the seam allowances and things like that. If you want to try fray check, if you guys tried fray check and it worked really well, comment in the comment section and let me know. I would love to know. I have a lot of this stuff to have to make over the next couple of weeks. So any information that you guys have, just share that in the comment section down below. As a matter of fact, if you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up. Or if you want to subscribe and hang around and see what other things I'll be making, you just hit that subscribe button. Every other week I post videos on Sundays. So if you guys want to look into those and get to see more stuff, you just make sure that you hit the subscribe button so that you'll be notified when I make another video. Thanks for joining us here again on Faith Works Designs. Bye guys.